We have seen conquerors who broke the map and a peasant girl who heard the admin signal. These anomalies were about power and communication. But now, we move to the Italian Renaissance to meet a man whose glitch was purely intellectual. He didn't want to rule the world. He wanted to understand how it was rendered. Leonardo da Vinci is often called a polymath, a genius, a man ahead of his time. But at Hidden Logic, we use a different term. He was a tech leak. He was a player who somehow gained access to the high-level asset library of a future update and began sketching it into the primitive world of the 15th century. Think about the sheer scope of his work. While his contemporaries were painting religious icons, Leonardo was dissecting the human body with the precision of a modern surgeon. He wasn't just drawing muscles, he was documenting the hardware. He saw the human eye not as a window to the soul, but as an optical lens. He saw the heart not as the seat of emotion, but as a dual-action pump. He was looking at the physical world and seeing the underlying mechanics. It is as if he had a wireframe view enabled, allowing him to see through the skin texture and understand the rigging and the code that makes a biological entity function. But his anatomical studies are only the beginning of the anomaly. The real proof lies in his codex, thousands of pages of sketches that look less like art and more like patent applications from the 20th century. He designed our armored tank 400 years before the First World War. He sketched a flying machine that used the same principles as a modern helicopter. He designed a diving chute, a self-propelled cart, and even a programmable mechanical knight. In a world where the primary mode of transportation was a horse and the height of technology was a mechanical clock, Leonardo was dreaming of robotics and aviation. In the logic of a simulation, this is what we call a tech tree skip. Most civilizations progress through a series of logical steps. You discover steam before you discover electricity. You build a glider before you build a jet. But Leonardo was skipping hundreds of steps at a time. He was drawing the final versions of tools that humanity wouldn't be able to physically build for centuries because the materials hadn't been unlocked yet. He had the blueprints, but the server didn't yet support the resources needed to manufacture them. He was a designer working on a version of the game that wasn't scheduled for release for another half-millennium. Why did he hide his work? Leonardo wrote in mirror writing, a reversed script that can only be read with a mirror. For centuries, people thought he was hiding his secrets from the church or rivals. But perhaps it was a personal firewall. Perhaps he knew that the data he was accessing was too volatile for the current version of the simulation. He was documenting a reality that shouldn't exist yet, encrypting his findings so they wouldn't trigger a system-wide crash or a premature update. He was a beta tester who had seen the future and decided to keep it in a secure folder. Then there is the mystery of his unfinished works. Leonardo was notorious for never finishing a project. From the massive Sforza horse to many of his most famous paintings, he would start with feverish intensity and then simply walk away. Most biographers call it perfectionism or a distracted mind. But in our framework, we see it as a rendering limit. He would conceptualize something so complex, so advanced, that the environment around him couldn't handle the render. He would reach the edge of what was possible in the 1500s and find a visible wall. When he realized he couldn't build the machines he designed or perfectly capture the light he saw, he simply stopped. He knew the software he was running on was too weak for his ambitions. Consider the Mona Lisa. It is the most famous painting in the world, not because of the subject, but because of the technique. He used a method called sfumato, the blurring of edges to create a sense of depth and life. He was trying to bypass the low resolution of his era's art. He spent years obsessing over her smile, a smile that seems to change depending on the angle of the viewer. This is a dynamic texture, a piece of art that reacts to the observer. It is a masterpiece of rendering that feels more like a high-definition digital file than a piece of wood and oil. He was pushing the limits of the simulationist visual engine to see how close he could get to true, living reality. What was Leonardo da Vinci trying to tell us? His life suggests that time is not as linear as we think. If a man in the 1500s could see the future so clearly, then the future must already be written. It must be a set of assets that already exist in the system, waiting to be unlocked by the progression of time. Leonardo was simply a player who figured out how to peek into the next level. He showed us that the blueprints for our modern world were already in the system 5 centuries ago. As we look at our world in 2026, where we are finally building the machines he dreamt of, we have to ask, who is the Leonardo of our time? Who is sketching the blueprints for the year 2500? Are there artists and scientists today who are seeing wireframe view and documenting technology that we won't unlock for another 500 years? Watch this until the end to see where the trap is hidden. Because the trap is the idea that genius is a biological accident. In the hidden logic of our reality, genius is often just a high bandwidth connection to the future. Leonardo wasn't a man of his time. He was a man from our time, misplaced in the past, documenting the code of a world he wasn't allowed to build yet. Thank you for seeking the logic with us. Leonardo showed us that the future is just an unrendered file. Subscribe to keep seeing through the textures. In Part 10, we will move to the high-stakes world of the 13th century to look at a man who broke the speed limit of the map. We will investigate Genghis Khan, the server overload. Are you ready to see how he conquered the world faster than the system could track him?